you get the point. I like omelets. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Now, President Trump ran for office saying, I'm going to review every single penny in the federal budget. Now, how are you going to review the spending in the federal budget without reviewing the spending? And that's what Mr. Musk is doing. Now, many of my Democratic colleagues and some of the tofu-eating wokarati at the USAID are screaming like they're part of a prison riot because they don't want us reviewing the spending. But that's all Mr. Musk is doing, and he's finding some pretty interesting stuff. To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this.
Watching the world burn, February 4th, 2025. Let's get into it. I always try to help you out. This is my shoe. Out for a hike today. I was keeping these shoes in the garage because they're kind of my work shoes. In Florida, not a good idea to keep your shoes in the garage. Just a little tip for you. I can't believe it's only been 2 weeks. Feels like the Trump administration has been in there a year, doesn't it? I've never seen so many things coming out. I mean, it's insane. And I guess the USAID is the biggest one. And I don't even understand it. I ask this every single video, that you ask a Democrat a question, and I never ever get a response. I guess people are just too chicken to ask a Democrat a question, and I don't even understand it. Ask a Democrat why on earth they want all of our taxpayer money going to all kinds of crazy stuff outside the country. Why wouldn't they want that money spent inside the United States, perhaps to help a homeless person or house a veteran? You got Chuck Schumer up there and believe me, it was a huge money laundering. I mean, Elon Musk said it best. He said it wasn't just one worm in an apple. It was an apple full of worms. I mean, I'm gonna read some stuff to you about it. He's released, and all Elon Musk is doing is just shedding the light on what the hell was going on. They released. I could sit here for the next hour and read all the stuff that USA was spending money on, but we're just going to cover a few items, okay? Why is your Democrat friends for this? I don't even understand it. And then Trump wants to, not tax tips. How many waitresses or waiters do you know that are Democrats? Ask them, say, why are you against Trump not, taking the tax off of your tips? Ask them that question. I mean, so many things that Trump is doing that make perfect sense. Why are Democrats against Mexico putting 10,000 troops on the border to secure the border and stop the fentanyl from killing hundreds of thousands of Americans? Ask a Democrat that question, please. Why are you against that? Why are you against having our northern border secure? Why are Democrats for women getting raped? Why are they for child trafficking? I mean, these are just basic questions, but let's get into it. I mean, my God, this is crazy. So in wokeness, holy shit, the FBI just revealed that 5,000 out of their 13,000 agents were focused on the January 6th protesters. Can you imagine? What a waste of taxpayer money. A bunch of grandmas walking into the damn Capitol building, and they're worried that almost half of the FBI was focused on investigating these people. Why are Democrats for that? There's a video, but I already watched it. You don't want to watch it. This was a good post by Insurrection Barbie. And she said, the United States of America voted for President Donald Trump. Donald Trump appointed Marco Rubio as the Secretary of Defense. Not as the Secretary of Defense, he's the State Department. He was unanimously approved by the Senate. And he is now going to be in charge of USAID. Now, Elon wanted USAID just completely gone. But Trump said, okay, well, let's just roll it into the State Department. And you know what that does? It provides transparency in the future so that we'll know where the USAID money. USAID was meant to be for feeding poor people in Africa who didn't have enough food. It wasn't meant to fund a transvestite, play in Ireland or whatever. I mean, we're going to get into all the stuff that was good. There's nothing more constitutional than the procedure laid out in the statement above. Anybody still freaking out about USAID is outing themselves as a deep state operative, not to mention a deeply corrupted politician, and I would say they're outing themselves in a money laundering scheme. You know that Chuck Schumer was getting kickbacks. Nancy Pelosi, every single Democrat is against the transparency that's being revealed on USAID. Why is that? Ask yourself that. Ask a Democrat that question. The only explanation is they were getting money. They were making money off of the deal, man. That's why it was a whole huge money laundering operation. Senators are voting on Tulsi Gabbard's nomination today, so let's hope that goes well. It's Senate.gov, but by the time you watch this, I guess the vote will have taken place. This is Dmitry Medvedev. Trump explained how Kiev would pay the U.S. with Ukraine rare earths. What about Europe? It will pay through the nose to piece the failed state of Ukraine back together from its scraps. Europeans, thank your leaders for this. Ursula, Macron, Schultz, and other pathetic figures. So, anyway, to talk about the rare earths for just 1 minute. Most of the rare earths are in eastern Ukraine, which Russia already has taken. So I don't know what Trump's talking about. There really isn't any money to be made on rare earth minerals except in eastern Ukraine and Russia. They're not giving that back. They've lost 100,000 men to take that territory. No way in hell they're going to say, okay, now we might be able to negotiate a deal where we could go in and mine those minerals and pay Russia for it. I mean, it depends on the deal, right? The art of the deal. And then, of course, you got Western Ukraine, which is basically agricultural land. What are you going to do with that? I mean, Monsanto and the big U.S. corporations have already bought up all that land. So Ukraine's not going to make any money off of farming anymore. So, I mean, they've already signed over the rights to that farmland to U.S. corporations. I don't know what Trump's talking about. So this is Benny Johnson. So I just wanted to read a few things about USAID. Ask a Democrat this question. So let's see. Let's just talk about it. USAID exposed the single largest criminal fraud operation in human history. The public's outraged, and I wouldn't say the public's, the sane public. The public with common sense. That's not a Democrat at all. Anybody would be outraged over this except a Democrat. But let's just keep reading. Corruption at a scale and mainstream. USAID has been fully exposed as a left-wing money laundering criminal organization. Here's what our researchers were able to find when looking into their expenditures and why President Trump and Elon Musk shut it down. Okay. This was the initial release. There's been 9 pages released now. I mean, Sean Hannity was going on today. He could have spent 3 hours reading where all the money is going, but let's just go through a few of them just so you can kind of get a feel for it. I don't want to waste a whole video on this, but Haiti, post-2010 earthquake, $1.14 billion was spent on a port and power plant project promoted by President Bill Clinton. The project never built anything. So there you go. So the Democrats got $1.14 billion and never built a thing. Wonder where that money went, huh? Cuba, a 2006 audit showed $74 million in democracy promotion. Funds vanished without oversight. Afghanistan, millions squandered on health scams. Hospitals never built. Nigeria, Chemicronics, a major USAID contractor, was linked to a subcontractor's overbilling scandal. Hundreds of millions lost. COVID-19 funding. USAID sent over $40 million in taxpayer money to a scientist located in Wuhan to do gain-of-function mutations. This directly led to the creation and release of COVID-19. Wonder where that funding went. $2.5 million to DEI activity in Serbia. 70,000 on an Irish DEI musical. 47,000 on transgender operas in Colombia. 32,000 on trans comic book in Peru. Iraq, 20 million for an Iraqi version of Sesame Street to promote LGBTQ agenda. Egypt and Tunisia, 50 million for tourism. Jordan, 40 million for schools. Vietnam, 11 million to fight trash burning. Never mind. That would crack me up. Because I got a neighbor, a quick story here. I got a neighbor that lives over a fence because I'm in a gated community, right? And I don't know what it is. I guess maybe they have to pay for trash collection. You know, that's part of my HOA fees. So I pay for it through the HOA. But rather than pay, they burn their trash. And I mean, it stinks, man. I mean, that plastic, when it burns, it's horrible. And it just comes right over that fence, right under my house. And I've complained, but the city, there's no ordinance against burning trash in Florida. I wish there was. For once in my life, I want more government instead of less. Central America, 27 million for deportees gift bags. Trump lawfare, 27 million to fund left-wing prosecutions of populist political opponents around the globe, including Donald Trump. I'm sure Viktor Orban was in there, probably the president of other nations, and countless billions more. Here's the thing. The majority of this money never went to the projects they claim to be promoting. It's just pure money laundering from your tax dollars into deep state left-wing activists. USAID is likely the largest fraud operation in human history. So I just wanted to read that little bit about USAID. I mean, my God, that's crazy. This is from Our Country, Our Choice. It says, breaking, RFK Jr. has been approved by Senate committee to become the next Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, I don't know if that means, I think it just means he's out of committee. I'm pretty sure the Senate still has to vote on him. Oh man, this is this is great. This is a meme from Elon Musk. I'll put it up above. It says, from now on, money laundering will be called foreign aid. But getting back to this question again, I mean, I just keep asking this question. Why do Democrats want all of our money going outside the United States? And I don't get it. Why wouldn't you want U.S. taxpayer money spent on Americans? I mean, do they hate the country that much? Do they hate you and me that much that they would rather just spend it on, anyway, we already been through the list. BBC is literally state-funded media. Found out that USAID funds the BBC in Great Britain. Unbelievable. The White House press secretary, Carrie Ann Levitt, just outlined Trump's victories over the past 2 weeks. Let's watch that video.
We are 2 weeks in, and President Trump is already delivering big wins for the American people. Let's go through the facts. On the border, President Trump declared a national emergency, deployed the military, ended catch and release, and reinstated Remain in Mexico. And already, illegal crossings are down 95%. We are resuming construction of the border wall, and Colombia's president is now offering his own plane for deportation of illegal Colombian immigrants. On the economy and energy, President Trump unleashed American energy, declared a national energy emergency, and killed Joe Biden's radical electric vehicle mandate. Wall Street is booming, AI investments skyrocketed to $500 billion, and there's $20 billion flowing into U.S. data centers across our country. President Trump is restoring law and order. He labeled the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and he is deporting criminal illegal aliens, and he signed the Laken Riley Act into law. Draining the swamp, President Trump signed more than 45 executive orders. DEI has been purged from the government and our military, and lazy federal workers have been ordered back to the office. And when it comes to free speech and transparency, President Trump took 12 times more press questions than Joe Biden did in a week, reinstated 440 silenced journalists to the press room, and ended government censorship. Promises made, promises kept, and we're just getting started.
So that's just 2 weeks, man. I mean, that doesn't even cover it all. Oh my God. This is another one. Another meme by Elon Musk. How many countries tax their citizens and send the money to the United States? Yeah, how much foreign aid do we get here in the United States? I don't know of any, do you? So this was Ron Paul on USAID, and then shut it down. Let's watch his video.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the weekly report. Audit USAID, then shut it down. As of this writing, when you attempt to access the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID website or social media pages, you are informed that this site can't be reached. The media reports that the new Trump administration has not only frozen USAID activities, but may be planning on bringing it back under control of the U.S. State Department. Other reports, including statements by Elon Musk, suggest that it will be closed completely. If true, the closing of USAID may be one of the most significant changes President Trump has made among the many dramatic actions in his first couple of weeks in office. Many Americans may still have the idea that USAID is a government agency delivering relief at disaster site overseas. They may still remember the bags of rice or grain with the USAID logo on them, but that is not USAID. USAID is a key component of the U.S. government's regime change operations worldwide. USAID spends billions of dollars every year propping up NGOs overseas that function as shadow governments, eating away at elected governments that the U.S. interventionists want to overthrow. Behind most U.S. foreign policy disasters overseas, you will see the fingerprints of USAID. From Ukraine to Georgia and far beyond, USAID is meddling in the internal affairs of foreign countries, something that would infuriate Americans if it was happening to us. When President Trump ordered a 90-day pause in USAID activities, we quickly learned just how pernicious the agency really is. The U.S. media reported that Ukrainian press outlets were scrambling to keep their doors open when the U.S. dollar stopped flowing. It is reported that 90% of the media outlets are funded by the U.S. government. This means that there is virtually no independent media in Ukraine, only fake news outlets willing to toe the U.S. administration's propaganda line. Does anyone think these wholly U.S.-funded news outlets would ever publish a story that the U.S. government did not want published? This is plainly immoral, but it is also dangerous. Most U.S. mainstream media stories about Ukraine have their origin in the reporting of the local media. From battlefield news to casualties to the state of the Ukrainian military, the news from Ukraine is being written by U.S. government-backed media outlets and then picked up by U.S. and other Western media. It is a closed propaganda loop that not only propagandizes the U.S. citizens but also feeds false information into U.S. government outlets, such as Congress, that rely on mainstream U.S. media reporting for their news on Ukraine. No wonder so many in Washington continue to support this hopeless war. But USAID is not just the business of disinformation. Elon Musk recently reported a New York Post article on X reporting that USAID bundled $53 million to Echo Health Alliance to support gain-of-function research on coronavirus at the Wuhan lab. Did USAID help fund COVID? Americans have a right to know. In natural catastrophes overseas, Americans have shown themselves to be extremely generous. Private volunteer assistance organizations can most effectively assist victims of disasters worldwide. USAID needs a full and transparent audit. Americans deserve to know exactly what is being done in their name. Then the agency needs to be shuttered completely and its employees sent home. That would go a long way toward making America great again. Thanks for listening.
All right, so that was Rand Paul talking about it. And now we get to this. This is Mario Nafal. Press Secretary Leavitt, Elon is a special government employee. I can confirm Elon is a special government employee. I can also confirm that he has abided by all applicable federal laws. Source, C-SPAN. Let's watch her in that video.
Elon Musk is a special government employee.
Yes.
What kind of security clearance does he have?
I can confirm he's a special government employee. I can also confirm that he has abided by all applicable federal laws. As for his security clearance, I'm not sure, but I can check back with you.
Did he pass a background check, do you know?
I don't know about the security clearance, but I can check.
And do you know about anyone who's on his team that was at USAID this weekend or at Treasury Department, whether they also have security clearances?
I don't know, but I can check on that for you.
All right, so there was that. And then this is insane. This is from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. PBS and NPR called to face DOGE subcommittee. PBS and NPR received the tax dollars of hardworking Americans to stay on the air. Their coverage should serve every single American, not just a narrow slice of like-minded individuals and ideological interest groups. Notably, NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story in an attempt to protect then-candidate Joe Biden leading up to the 2020 presidential election. Just hours after President Trump was sworn in for the second term, PBS falsely implied that Elon Musk made a fascist salute at the president's inaugural rally. He said, "From my heart." That's what it was, if you just didn't know. This kind of one-sided reporting, which attacks over half the country to protect and promote its own political interests, doesn't deserve a single cent of American taxpayer money. Now, the reason I read all that to you was this has a special place in my story. You know, when I wrote my book, The Internet is Infected, you know, back then I thought that NPR was kind of an impartial news organization. In fact, I used to listen to NPR. I even actually donated money to NPR. I gave them $50. So in the hopes of getting a book review, because, you know, NPR, they always have somebody in on basket weaving, or they do the craziest books. And it should have been a red flag in my head, you know. It's kind of like, you know, keeping your shoe in the garage. You know what I mean, it's not a good idea, you know. But I mean, so I sent them, and each book cost me $50 to print. So I sent them about $300 worth of books, and you know, for them to review, because you know, you don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of different sections of NPR. You know, you got Fresh Air, and back then I used to know all the shows. Never even got a word. In fact, those books I found out later went up for sale on Amazon. So the NPR, not only did they not give me a review, they took the books and I guess gave them to maybe somebody to sell and make money off of them. Is that unbelievable or what? So I have a special hatred for NPR. Now PBS, I don't know. To me, it looks like a great place for DOGE to save some extra money. I agree. Defund NPR completely. You know, we don't need left-wing propaganda funded by the U.S. taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's just my opinion. This was Cheap Nerd. Let me get this straight. Fauci's NIAID and USAID sent over $40 million in taxpayer support to a scientist in Wuhan who was working on bat coronavirus emergence research, who also became patient zero for COVID-19, and the completion date for that funding was 2019. This document was attained by FOIA by White House Coat Waste. Give them a follow. So unbelievable, huh? So that was just Chief Nerd. And then this is another thing here. This is Josh Dunlap. A newly declassified CIA report confirms that SARS-CoV-2 was bioengineered in a lab with the help of the Pentagon in 2017. This suggests a coordinated effort to conceal the role of the United States and Western agencies in the development of the COVID-19 virus, while shifting blame to China. And then it shows you the report. I'll put that up above. So crazy, huh? So then, we could just go on and on and on about this waste. All that Trump is doing, all Elon Musk is doing is just making everything transparent. How come a Democrat doesn't want to know what their government is spending money on? Or how the money was spent? Why wouldn't you be for something like that? Ask a Democrat that question for me, please. Why wouldn't you want to know where your taxpayer money's going? I don't get it. Unless, I guess if you're getting the kickback. And then this is one more video and we'll finish it off right here. USAID is evil. Rand Paul asked Samantha Power, did USAID fund coronavirus research in Wuhan, China? And this was, I guess this was a while back. Let's watch that video.
Ms. Powers, did USAID fund coronavirus research in Wuhan, China?
We did not fund gain-of-function research,
That's not the
as
question.
you know.
The question is, did you fund coronavirus research in Wuhan, China?
Before my time, there was the PREDICT program with which you're familiar, which ended in China in 2019.
Yeah, this is a $200 million program, and the GAO has also identified that some of these grants went directly to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where there is a suspicion that the lab leak began the pandemic. Has USAID awarded funds to the Academy of Military Medical Sciences in China?
Not to my knowledge, but I'd have to get
I think the answer is once again yes. GAO has found that there have been subawards of NIH money as probably as well as USAID money that went to the Academy of not just medical research, military medical research in China. Now, part of the unknowns here is we can't get the records to look at this. So I've been asking for months and months for records. In September of last year, I wrote Ms. Powers, USAID, a request asking for records from the PREDICT program. These are not classified. These are simply records of scientific research, and we want to read the grants to find out what they were doing and whether the research was dangerous or not. The response I got from your agency was USAID will not be providing any documents at this time. They're just unwilling to give documents on scientific grant proposal. We're paying for it. They're asking for $745 million more in money, and we get no response. So 2 weeks ago, the ranking member, Risch, myself, and 25 other Republican senators, unfortunately, so far, signed a letter once again. It's still no response. We're not asking for classified information. We're not asking for anything unusual. 20 million people died around the world. You're supposed to be an agency that cares about the death of people around the world. We, talk about starvation and famine, and 20 million people died from a virus, and you won't give us the basic information about what grants you're funding around the world and who you're funding. Should we be funding the Academy of Military Medical Research in China? They're now off limits. But did we fund them? And who was making the decision? You know who ran the PREDICT program? UC Davis. Have you had any conversations with UC Davis about research in China and whether it was advisable?
So again, to set the record straight, first of all, the PREDICT program ended in 2019. We have people
and yet it goes on in other forums and other names.
That's certainly not USAID program.
Well, you have a program called Emergency Pandemic Threats Program still, don't you?
If I could just finish in response to the first set of allegations, we have provided hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents related to the PREDICT program for the very reason that you say, because we are in
not to us.
We are, again, as I know you had an exchange with Secretary Blinken as well, consistent with longstanding practice.
Not going to give them to us.
Responsive to the committees of jurisdiction.
Not going to. You've been consistent in not giving us any information.
That's not true.
But what you're
we've
saying
provided
is
hundreds of pages in response to the Karen ranking.
To
the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, for example, We've had extensive
We've been requesting this and
engagement with
gotten none of
committee.
it. I'm on that committee as well. The thing is what we get from you and from the State Department at large is that if Senator Menendez signs it, you'll give it documents. Until then, you'll give us nothing. And we have gotten nothing, zero. You said will not be providing any documents. I now have 25 senators have sent you a letter, and you aren't responding.
But
And
will certainly
we
respond.
want to see the scientific grants. We give you the money, the taxpayers give you the money. We deserve to know where the money went, whether it happened. Look, you're right, it ended in 2019. When did the virus come about? In about 2019. Some of the research proposals that came about in 2018 were Wuhan Institute of Virology asking for money to create a virus with a furin cleavage site in it, a coronavirus, a SARS-like virus with a furin cleavage site. That's exactly what COVID turned out to be. They wanted money to create such a virus. So we want to know, are there other research proposals that you either granted or denied that were on the same veins of creating viruses that could have become COVID-19? We can't tell because you won't give us the information.
Again, consistent with longstanding practice, we are providing extensive documentation. We have a whole
That's
team of
just
people
not
who do
true.
nothing other
That's
than look
just
back
not
and
true.
predict.
That is not
It
true.
is factually accurate.
That is
It
not
is. The
true.
fact that-
Everything we have asked, we have not gotten. I have not seen one document on the PREDICT program.
I understand that, again, consistent with common practice
Consistent
across
that you're not going to give
administration.
it to any senator.
No.
for
We're
that.
providing all of the kinds of documentation that you're
You are
describing.
not. You're
we
being
are.
dishonest. You're being
No, I'm
dishonest.
not. I'm
we haven't
absolutely
gotten
not.
one scrap of paper from you. Not one
again,
scrap of
with
paper.
the committees of jurisdiction, we are providing all of the paperwork that
You are not.
requested by the
I'm
chair
on the
and
other
ranking-
committee. I'm the ranking member on the
Well-
other committee, and I haven't seen a scrap of paper from that committee either.
Well, that is.
See, here's what the
I
American
can tell you
people,
what has happened.
the American
Actually,
people,
I can't tell you what
the
happens
American
at the committee.
people think this, that because you won't respond and because you respond with a non-response, that you have something to hide. I don't know if you have anything to hide or not. I want to see every grant proposal that had to do with coronaviruses that went to China from the U.S. government, from all facets of the U.S. government, and every bit of the Biden administration is stonewalling us and will not give us the information. It makes us think and makes us suspicious that you're hiding something. And it wasn't even you. This was the previous administration. We go back 2 or 3 administrations. We just want to see the information, and yet you sit there and you say we will do something, we are doing something, which is absolutely the opposite of the truth. You are not being honest.
So that was Rand Paul. And then we'll just read a couple more. Many blue starters are saying that when they secede, blue states, when they secede from the union, would you support that? Hell yeah, I would secede. I think I would love for California to break off and become a state of its own. And then the last, we'll finish it off right here. This is Todd Starnes. There are a number of Christian ministries and publications that are enraged over President Trump's mass deportations, but their outrage may have more to do with their bottom line. They see President Trump as a clear and present danger to their bank accounts. For example, remember the bishop who attacked President Trump from the pulpit of the National Cathedral? Her church immigration ministry received $53 million in tax money. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops got $1.4 billion in taxpayer money for their immigration efforts. If the Catholic and Episcopalians want to care for illegal immigrants, they should do so with their own tithes and offerings, not the hard-earned money of the American taxpayers. Amen to that. I can't believe I couldn't be a member of the Catholic Church now. I mean, they profited immensely off of the misery of importing illegal immigrants into this country and trafficked them all over the United States. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Peace out. Stay free. So on my way back, I just got to thinking, another question that I'd love for somebody to ask a Democrat and leave a comment. Of course, nobody ever does, but I figure one of these days somebody will. Anyway, what is the Democrats' problem with Robert Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard? I mean, let's look at Tulsi Gabbard's background. She's a Democrat out of Hawaii. She's been a Democrat most of her adult life. In fact, she ran for president on the Democrat ticket when she put, remember that she demolished Kamala Harris. You know, and I dare say if the Democrats had had a primary, Tulsi probably would have won. You know, so what is their problem? I mean, in fact, she was the golden child of the Democrat Party. And so now they're all lined up against her. For what reason? I guess just because she's, you know, said she's going to support Trump in his cabinet. They should be cheering that. She's pretty far left on a lot of things. And for Trump to have her in his cabinet, you know, he's going to get a much more balanced view of everything than anybody else that he would have in that position, because she's going to be briefing Trump every day on what the intelligence community tells her. I would think that Democrats would be cheering that on. And then you got Robert Kennedy, once again, a Democrat, been a Democrat most of his life. And all he wants to do is expose the big pharma companies, and then also the food conglomerates. Now, we know why the Democrats hate Robert Kennedy, because they make a lot of money from big pharma and the food conglomerate. So that one is easily explained. But still, at the same time, you know, you would think that at least one Democrat would cross party bounds, because, you know, obviously since Robert Kennedy was a Democrat for so long, he has to have some friends, I think, in the Democrat Party. I would hope, you know, until he went up against big pharma and the food conglomerates. So but the thing that gets me is not one Democrat will vote for him. It just blows my mind. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Just wanted to add that to the video.